Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Page of Swords podcast. This is episode 23 with Aubrey Worek. Aubrey, thank you so much for coming on. I'm super excited to have you because I've actually talked about you on my podcast before because you were my very first posing coach. So
I'm a lot. You know what? It's like I think that is my role in this lifetime in the competitive fitness arena, where it's like I'm everybody's first baby. I break you in, de-virginize you into this wonderful world, and then you branch out to see where you want to go. So good. I'm glad you have helped you with some training wheels.
you know what? I had a girl on, her name was Stephanie, and it was funny because she said her first posing coach also did pool fitness. And I'm like, so was mine.
There you go.
Like, I guess
Something
that's how
those
we
crystal clear heels, man.
It is. It's the heels. You know how many girls I feel like are just not comfortable in heels? Just
My best advice, and I've said this before on another show, is you must become one with the shoe.
it's so true.
People tell me this. They're like, well, they have like the bikini body, but they want to do like the figure posing, right? They're not muscular enough to go into figure. And your journey has been there. You went bikini and figure and moving on. And it's like their biggest hang up in bikini is walking in heels or a T-walk or something. And I'm like, you know what? Like anything with any sport, you have to make it your BITCH. Like just freaking dive right in. And that's what I like to help people do, to make their whatever they're uncomfortable with, to make them much more comfortable.
Yeah, I have so many girls that are just like, they feel like little baby deer. You know what I mean? And it just takes practice.
It's practice. I say this about pole dancing. It's like nobody comes out of the womb knowing how to pole dance. Nobody comes out of the womb in 6-inch pair of stilettos. So,
Right. And we're going to talk about all these different shows and everything and organizations, but I think like the standard is what, like a 4-inch heel for competing? Is that?
Typically 5 is where I go with, but because then if you have 5, you have the platform.
Yeah.
And that's what I find, because a lot of times people go a little too low and then they don't have the platform on it.
Mm-hmm.
But, like anything, if you practice, you know that you got it. That's the thing. And I think that people don't want to identify with there's an element to posing. For the love of God, you're like half naked on stage. It's sexy. It's sexy. So it's like, I don't know where the hang up is sometimes with people, that they're like, well, that's not me. I don't identify with that. And I was like, no. And you know this because you have your alter ego, you get it. Like we had to channel that alter ego with everybody so that, they can identify with their fitness competitor when they're on stage and be okay with that.
Exactly. And I know you were always the one that taught me not only how to rock the stage and be comfortable, but then, you have fun and you want the judges to see that you're having fun, the facial expressions. That's a whole other thing that, I see girls forget about. I'm like, you got to walk and you got to have a little bit going on up here too.
So it's a total package, baby. And you have to do you. And I, recently, my pose, the way I coach posing in terms of body confidence and that inner self-acceptance has, I think, remained pretty steadfast since I've worked with you. I've always enhanced it. My posing style has evolved just like with the organization. So as I start to work with other head judges around here, I think it becomes less of a mystery, because sometimes we just look at pictures of poses and we think, okay, well, this is the exact pose that I have to snap into. If I move my shoulder here and do this and that, it's going to be perfect. And you and I both know it's about, getting that mind muscle connection, that body awareness, and accepting that, like, your posing practice has to evolve with the times, as the posing styles. So, I've been working with one of the main head judges in the Pittsburgh area, and it's really interesting to see how she coaches people in posing, and it's helped me coach people better. So it's been really great. And I like to see the organizations actually having now, these tutorials on how to pose, because it wasn't always like that. It was more or less like, all right, let's just, I think this is the way to go. And now they're setting more of a standard. So.
Mm-hmm. Is that Stacy that you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
I thought so. And she's mostly with OCB, right?
Yeah, Stacy is with the OCB, and with the OCB, you know, this is like, okay, for those of you who are listening into Paige's podcast, maybe you're trying to figure out like this alphabet soup of organizations, because I know at first it's like FAP, OCB, NPC, and you know, the list can go on depending on where you live in the country. The OCB has been around for quite a while, and yeah, Stacy Longo in the Pittsburgh area, she holds some great shows with this organization. And specifically now the OCB, I competed in my first OCB show. Now I've emceed their shows before, but I competed in their first bikini show, 3 weeks ago. And it was so well run. It was so well run. And it's kind of like, and I don't know if we want to dovetail into this Paige, if I'm like putting the cart before the horse, because I know I wanted to talk about my background in that. But, you know, as the 2020 experience starts to blend into the 2021 experience and how, you know, live shows are going to fall into this, in the state of Virginia, what the OCB did, and they had a live show where they respected all the guidelines that the state had to do, which is pretty much the same as Pennsylvania, with the mask mandates, the social distancing, etc. So what they did is that they did not have a competitor meeting. They had everyone go in at their own scheduled times. And I'm telling you, the show was freaking ginormous. And I've competed in some ginormous shows before. And they ran it like, I mean, to the minute that they just knew what to do. They negated some for the women, like the T-walk. And I mean, they were hustling you. But I'll tell you what, it was awesome as a competitor because you didn't have to sit around all day. You showed up 30 minutes before you went on. And I loved it so much because that for me, my background is more of like the fitness pageants. I have Fitness America is like my roots, and I have my pro card with Fitness America, but I'm used to doing a fitness routine. With that organization, I mean, you know, hundreds and hundreds of competitors show up to these big shows. It never runs on time. You're trying to do a fitness routine, you're starving, then you throw on a bikini, then you have an interview round. And so at that point, I could survive anything. So I show up to this show. It was so fun and so easy. I was like, what? We're on time?
Yeah.
This is awesome. And it was great for the family and who showed up. To have my 4-year-old there and not waiting around for hours ready to kill someone. So they had it down. So I really commend them. I mean, how they structured it. And I'm sure other organizations are doing something similar, but this was my experience with the OCB. Yeah, the OCB is a natural show. And it was interesting because for those of you, I mean, this was actually my first lie detector test. Fitness America, isn't that interesting? Fitness America, they boast that they're natural, but they don't do the polygraph. And I've competed just in fitness, so they never do like a urine test or anything. So this was new to me. And I got really nervous with the polygraph. You know, it was like, oh my gosh, you don't know until like you're actually, you know, in the hot seat. Not, you know, I had nothing really to hide, but the questions that they ask you as your baseline are really personal. And you're like, oh man, I felt like I was in confession, and I don't like confession. So that was interesting. But
that sounds like it. Good.
Yeah. So I kind of got bit by the bug, and I'm gonna go compete again with the OCB, because this time I did not get my pro card. This is my first show. I came like a point away.
So
and I wanted, so close. But I will tell you this, Paige, it was an interesting time to diet for a show. And a lot of the judges, you know, I got feedback from the judges, and they were like, oh, I commend you for dieting during like the 2020 experience, or that's what I call it, you know? And I'm like, this was my saving grace. Like, I don't know about you, but like, I would complete opposite. Like when I went to college, I wasn't the girl who was freshman 15. I was like, oh, hail to the no. And then I took this. But if you know, I'm a wee bit older than you. I'm on the ripe age of 40, just a wee bit.
Good, don't
So I
worry.
have dieted since, I mean, you started competing since when you were 23, right?
Yeah, it was like 2016. I think I was working with you
Yeah.
and started
Yeah.
everything.
Yeah. Which is amazing. I didn't start competing until I was 27.
Mhm.
And, so I have my like dieting. I'm sure for you, like each show that you diet for is totally different. If you think that you're going to do a rinse and repeat from circa, 2016, it ain't going to work. It ain't going to work. If you would have seen my diet for this show,
Mhm.
I mean, like, I was really happy how my body came in for half-assing it,
Yeah.
So I won my age category, and I got like second and open, and it was like that moment on stage. Like you and I you've heard me say this in my posing sessions, where like, you summon like all the powers in your mind, where, I mean, that whole week you're like mental prepping, you write down your vision, what you want to do. And I'm there with this other girl, and I can feel all of her friends and family there, right? I can feel all of her friends and family there. And knowing that I had like this kind of half-assed approach to my diet, and I was like, this is this girl's show. She deserves to win. She totally, her family needs to see her win this show. It didn't matter like what anyone else thought, if I should have won or not. It was totally hers. And I felt like that up there to like just give that energy to her. So it's such a neat experience after competing for 13 years, when when I was really young, and like if I didn't place where I wanted, and I was like, well, I really did this and that, and not that I ever discredited someone who won. It was a matter of like, but you have to respect the fact that like that just wasn't your day, it wasn't your show. So that was kind of my takeaway from that, and it
And
was
that's a
such
learning
a good thing.
experience. You learn
Yeah.
from that. And I think that will add fuel to your fire for the next show that you have in your mind. I'm sure, like, what did you like know right away from that point? You're like, I got to do another show.
You know what? It was okay. So no. So I'm
No.
back. I'm backstage. It was like after the awards and everything,
Mhm.
and I was like, all right, I'm ready to eat. We're gonna go eat, and I was
Yeah.
so excited. The cool thing was, because it had been about 2 years since I had competed in a show which was a totally different show. It was like a pageant. That was one that I did win, and it was just a different type of a thing. Anyway, so I'm done, and there is another show promoter there, and like passing out flyers, and they're like, hey, you should really, this is another pro qualifier, come to this next show. And I like totally glossed over it. I was like, no, this is just something I wanted to do. So so I could see how I did. I was never a true bikini competitor, so I wanted to see where I would fall. And then as 3 days passed, I was like, oh, come on, let's just do it. What the hell else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So I'm kind of back in it. I'm back in it to win it, because the Yorton Cup with OCB is in Pittsburgh.
I have
This
one.
yeah, which is like the biggest show for the OCB. So if I could actually get my pro card, then I could do that show, and it's just something to do, girl. You know what I mean?
And the way the OCB works is like when you become a pro, like they actually only have like a limited amount of pro shows, correct? Because like I've talked with Kim, and Kim is a figure pro in OCB, and she says that there's only like a handful of pro shows for figure. So is it the same for bikini?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting how they structure it. I believe that and I'm going to base what Kim says as fact, because gosh, it's been so long since, I think there were times where if you were a pro, you could still compete in one of the amateur shows. It was kind of weird. I'm not sure how they structured it, but yeah, this is, once you go pro, then really, I mean, why would you kind of go back?
Yeah, because like NPC, it's like once you go pro, you can't go back. So
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
you're set in.
Now, tell me a little bit. So your journey, though, you obviously you started in bikini and working with the Kumite Classic, which was an unsanctioned show, I believe, when you did it. That's where all the the falling outs of the organization started to happen, and so many shows just popped up that it was unsanctioned, but it was still good for people to do for experience.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, you got bit by the bug.
Yeah, that was I did like my experience there. It was, had the expo atmosphere, with the Pittsburgh Fitness Expo, and then, just like working with you. And then, you had a few girls that we all did it together. So it was nice to have like a team almost, and backstage was really comfortable. And to be honest, like I see so many girls now that just go right to the NPC. Because, that's the big flashy organization, as you could probably call it,
Yeah.
And that's why, like, I was really happy to get you on so that we could talk about some of these other ones that you've done, because you've done like the Fitness America and OCB, and I think that there's something for each one for everybody, if maybe that's something that we're geared towards, because we know.
Yeah. And I think people just don't know. And that's my best bet. Or they might hear from someone, at least the feedback I get, like, oh yeah, you just want to try this organization. And it's like, it's a matter of to have respect for each organization. I know, it's, I was saying earlier, Fitness America was the first competitive fitness organization, and they would air on ESPN, ESPN2, and their fitness routines was nothing less short of like an Olympic gymnast routine. And that organization evolved. Fitness America started to really look at different body types so that they could separate themselves from other organizations, let's say in terms of like leanness or vascularity. So, I tell people, some people are like, oh, Fitness America, you don't have to be lean, or you don't have to try hard. And it's like, no, that's actually not the case. What they're looking for is something different. And Fitness America, what I had to change my posing right away when I went with OCB, because I was working with Stacy Longo for a little bit, and I was doing stuff, and she goes, Aubrey, and she's so sweet. She is like sweet as calorie-free pie. Okay. And she's like, Aubrey, that little mambo that you're putting in, she's like, I don't see people doing that a lot with the OCB. I was like, girl, I'll take it out. You just have to tell me. So with Fitness America, they like the flash and the sass and the ooh and the and then with the other ones, it's a different ooh and and it's like, and so that was really helpful. And it's a matter of, again, you just got to play the game of the organization, but I think it's really important to know which game you are signing up for, stand the different ones. And it's great to go to a show or to watch a show, to talk to people who have done these shows, though, before just jumping all in and then poo-pooing other ones. So there's a place for each of them, and based on, I think, the season that you're in, because there could be, the season of Aubrey right now isn't with Fitness America. I would love to go to Las Vegas and do all that again, but there's not enough fitness competitors anymore for me to have a competition. I would love to live that life again. I hope I can, but right now I have to change. So it's a different season, and this is where, I feel that I would fare best at.
And actually, since we're on that note, I don't think we've told the view or the listeners yet. So that Fitness America, that was 2015, and that was the show that you won your pro card?
Yes, that was the one in Las Vegas. I won my pro card, and it was awesome. It was a magical day.
So I'm actually like looking at the results and everything from the website. And so they judge you on a performance, and then there's a swimsuit, and then an interview. So how does each of that work?
So it's like, it's typically like 50% with your, how they structured it. Maybe it's like 50% your fitness routine, 50% your swimsuit, and then they throw in whatever for the interview round. Okay. And it was really interesting with this show because how they mix it up. Like I don't know if I scored perfect all around with that one that year, but obviously,
yes, you were 100 for your performance routine.
So that's what got me. So that was because there were 2 years in a row before I won my pro card where I scored perfect routines. And I got like lean as shit for like both of those shows leading up to it. Like I'm talking like I couldn't have gotten any leaner. I probably lost my ghetto booty at that point. Like I was like, yeah. I mean, I was like fasting, and I was just like, so like.
You trade your abs. You trade your ass for your abs.
Yeah, exactly. That's
I'm on my way.
That's what I did. 100%. You get it. So I was, leading up, then as Fitness America's body type is different. I was like, you MFers. I was so mad because I dieted my butt off and they scored me low in the swimsuit round. So here I come rolling back with more body fat. And not that I scored particularly the highest with the swimsuit rounds, but I scored higher enough to win the show. And I scored the highest in the interview round. And I'm going to tell you something too, because with pageants or with speaking, and I think it's a different day and time where, you and I have this conversation, we're very comfortable, but when somebody puts a microphone in front of your face, you're on the spot and all these people are looking at you. Honestly, it only takes one bad interview for you to never have a bad interview again. You know what I mean? Like one time to bomb, and then you suddenly magically become so good at talking in front of a ton of people.
Oh yeah.
So that was that day, and it was awesome. And I don't know how you feel, but like I feel like competing, you do it for you, but for everybody who everyone who supports you too, because they share a special part in your journey.
Oh, for sure. And with social media, I'm sure you understand, like there's always people, like you don't even know there's people there that are watching. You go to the show and then you get like this whole like list of DMs and all these people are like, I've been watching the whole time. And you're like, oh, I had no idea, but thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really awesome. And I think that's important to think about, and not necessarily like, oh, well, I'm here to inspire everybody. It's a matter of like, knowing that it's not just about you, and it's about sharing that energy and giving people the opportunity to help you, and you help them in return in some way, shape, or form, and not just make it about the superficialness of the sport.
Right. So with the interview round also, I wanted to ask what like, are they asking you questions, or like what sort of format are you kind of like speaking? Because which is really quite interesting, because we were just talking about how people aren't comfortable in high heels. Now imagine like, NPC or something making you do this too, where it's like you're in heels and you're interviewing.
Yeah, you're in heels, you're in your bikini, you're like, give me a hamburger. Yeah. It's interesting because at the time, Fitness America was huge. Like if you won a Fitness America show, you were the next chick on Oxygen magazine when magazines were a thing. Yeah. Or the Oxygen was their magazine, or you'd get featured in the magazine. So they were looking for kind of like a spokesperson, so to speak. They were looking for, someone to brand, which now, you brand yourself. That's what we do. So the interview round was just still dating back to like a Miss America with Muscles pageant, and they would ask you one simple question, and it was typically always fitness related. Every now and then they'd throw in some stupid vapid question like, hey, what do you want to eat after this? Oh. And you're like, that's what you're going to give me? I can't really sound very educated with that one, but it would be something to this effect, like, what advice would you give a young girl with an eating disorder who would want to compete in fitness? And so that'd be more in depth, and you'd have to sum it up pretty quickly. But some girls would choke because they didn't practice. I mean, you just have to practice somebody spitballing questions at you so that you can speak and be articulate instead of getting all verklempt and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I agree. Like questions like that, that's really going to help someone. And I feel like those kind of like with the fitness, I guess with people in the fitness, I see a lot of people with like the eating disorders and stuff like that. And
yeah,
it's kind of rough in my opinion, because we have to focus on food and the gym and everything. And then when you're on stage, like I would hope that stuff like that is for the better for people. Like it helps you like learn to appreciate everything and use everything for a purpose. So, I mean, yeah.
Well, it did for me, and that's really what got me out of my eating disorder. So I had an eating disorder from the age of about 12. And I mean, when I say I had it, and I'm speaking on behalf of my personal experience, I gave myself an eating disorder. So from the age of 12 to about 26. And it was a long time of you know, going from anorexia, bulimia, binge. My lightest weight, I mean, if you would have, I could show you pictures. My lightest weight was probably 90 pounds. And then at one point I was almost 160. Now, to give you perspective, when I had my son Roman, I was about 160 pounds, and that he was a 10-pound baby. So me as 160 was, I mean, almost there. I was almost there. It was, and also as a fitness professional, I was really struggling. It was like being a drug addict, you know, and it's very hard when your drug of choice is food. Mm-hmm. So I do see this a lot with this sport. And as I coach women too, you know, I think it's a matter of, we almost have to respect everyone's journey, because you know, you have to find that part of you that you love yourself enough to start to want to be helped to let go of that type of vice. I mean, sometimes I got so far into it, I didn't know how to get out. Yes. And what helped me is my very first trainer. He is amazing. I still keep in contact with him. I can't tell you, he was like one of my earth angels. He breathed so much belief in me and helped me. Now at the time, like, he's like, listen, I don't know how to train for a show like this, but I'm going to learn, and I'm going to help you. And he got me to win my very first show. And it was like working with him and working with someone that honestly was just so non-judgmental and so caring and nurturing. He helped me it was like put the nail in my eating disorders, coffin's grave, whatever you want to call it. And I mean, even after that, my relationship with food, I don't know how you feel with your relationship with food. Mm-hmm. You know, there are things that I can't have in the house. Sometimes, you know, like where I'm like, dude, I can't have that in the house, or I will eat it. Like I'm, you know, crazy. Mm-hmm. Or it's like sometimes some foods for me, it's almost like being a recovering alcoholic and having alcohol in the house. You know, It has gotten much easier over the years, but, you know, I still understand that there's like that little tiny piece of me that, you know, that little demon is still inside. So you just got to shrink them down. So, you know, I think that if people are working with a coach that respects that, mm-hmm. and you have to find the right one, because for me, I had to let go. Like for this last show, I was very happy with how my body, you know, looked. Mm-hmm. But I'm not a calorie counter. I don't count my macros. I do measure my food. Mm-hmm. I track it in a different way. Mm-hmm. But I think based on my history, I used to be so number focused that it made me cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. And I just can't ever go back there. You know, I try, and then I'm like, fuck it. So
you're like, I'm just wanting to eat good. And I'm sure at this point, you know what works good for you, you know what digests well, and you just know what makes you feel good. And you're trying to, and again, as you get older, your body probably changes, and you have to make things here and there, and trial and error. Every prep different.
Everyone is. Yeah.
And having a good coach, I preach this all the time. You know, there is a coach for you, someone out there that will fit for you. And it's a mindset thing, you know, it's you know, someone that will work with you and that you can talk to. Mm-hmm. And that's great. I'm glad that you were able to find that coach right away. Like, cause you know, sometimes people end up with bad coaches, but it sounds like you right away had somebody who was working with you. To you. And that's important.
Yeah. Yeah, I really lucked out. It was kind of just, you know, when people's paths cross for a reason, it was really meant to be. Mm-hmm. And the cool thing was I was kind of able to pay it forward. So at the time I met my trainer, he was like in his 50s, and super in shape guy, really good looking guy, just so nice. And he, you know, at the age of he turned 60, and we're still friends, you know, and this is before, well, maybe like he was 59. He goes, you know, I want to tell you something. And I'm like, all right. And he was like, he couldn't look at me when he told me this. He goes, but I want to do my first bodybuilding show. And here's me. I just burst out into excitement. I'm like, okay. So he does his first bodybuilding show. I think it was Dean's with NGA. And then he also went into OCB, I believe. And so at the age of 60, he steps on, and he wins the whole freaking show.
That's so
He
cute.
wins it. He wins it. But here's what he does. He goes, oh, I feel kind of bad that I won. So it's a natural show. It's a natural show, right? And he's been lifting his whole life. I said, why do you feel bad that you won? He goes, because I beat like some guys in their 20s. He goes, how do you think they feel that a 60-year-old beat them? Because it was like, you know, at that point, I was like, listen, Dave, you got to get over that. So that was the kind of guy, that's the kind of guy he is. You know, he just wanted to do it. And it was so cool to see everything come. I mean, such a great story to tell because I was able to help him, you know, achieve that goal of his.
That's so nice. Yeah. And I think anybody can start a bodybuilding show at any age because,
yeah,
you know,
that's the great thing about the sport.
I know. And I try to tell people too, you don't need to rush anything. The stage is there if you want to wait or do it.
It's not going anywhere.
And the older you get, the more mature your muscle is, whether you are
Absolutely.
natural or whatever. Like your muscle just over the years gets harder and it looks better. Like
it does. Your skin gets thinner. You can see it better.
And that's like in a good benefit. Like
that's the one benefit.
And then like, you know, I don't know about the OCB. If you guys have like, do you guys have like master classes, like at a certain age?
Yes. Oh God, Paige, this is what kills me. So, okay. When I competed with Fitness America, when you were 35, it was like, you were classic. And I was like, suddenly twitching. I was like, fucking classic. Okay. Then you get turned 40 and then you're masters. And then I really start twitching. And then what's after masters? God only knows. I forget.
I was going to say, wait, there's another? Because like,
there's another. They just keep it going, you know, until you're a Cadillac or whatever. I don't even know. So you just wait, girl. You just wait. When you get those mile markers, oh my God, it's weird to hear that. But you know, what do you do?
Because to me, it's like, you know, some people often ask like, well, when are you going to stop doing this or whatever? I'm just like, are you kidding me? Like I'm 28 and I already know for a fact, like 35 is like that's a prime number. That is a good number, man.
Absolutely. And that's the beauty of the longevity of the sport. And you've always had, since I've known you, had that excellent mindset where you know that it's not a sprint, right? And that's the thing, because you're going to have that your peak year, and then it's like you continue to ride it and ride it and ride it, and you know, and you just don't look back. And that's how you go the distance for that. And yeah, it's been awesome to see you. And you are just such a master poser. I love you. Are so committed to your posing.
I learned from you. You got to take some credit. All the credit.
I'm glad to get you started. But yeah, I always love it because I'm like, yep, you are such a joy to watch because you can tell that you are having fun, and you can see that, like, if I didn't know you and I saw you on stage, I'd be like, I need to be friends with that girl. She would be cool to hang out with.
You can't tell by the videos I post online, but I promise you, Aubrey, I know in my head, I'm going to do those smizes and smiles.
Oh, I think, yeah.
Because when I'm on stage, when you're in front of those judges, I do that, you know, the hair flip and the hey. I remember that learning from
hey. Well, the funny thing was with this last show, so we're all in masks, right?
Yeah. Oh.
And yeah. No, for your individual little presentation, you could whip that sucker off. But so we're in masks, and I thought, okay, am I just like, it's almost natural. Like you're still smiling here. You're still giving it because you know, you've practiced it so much, and you just can't help it when you're in front of people and that sort of thing.
Yeah. When you're on stage, you're so excited and you're nervous that I don't know how, like, not smiling would seem weird.
Yeah,
for me.
Definitely. That's so true.
So that's not an issue.
So I have to ask you, what's your next show coming up? So what's going on with you?
So I actually wanted to do the Arnold Amateur.
Yes, that's right. I did see you post that. Okay.
It would have been March 4th, but from what I'm hearing, nothing was ever posted, but they did say it was postponed, but then that was it. So I was like, you know what? I already know how Ohio's going right now, and I don't have any high hopes for Ohio with the way the restrictions are going.
Okay.
So I found a show April 3rd in Orlando, Florida.
Okay.
And it's called The Clash, and it's been highly recommended by several people. So it's actually pretty cheap to fly out of Latrobe to Orlando. So I'm actually thinking that's why I want to do that. I think
Yes.
Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel good about it. So I'm sitting at
Yeah.
like 15, 14 weeks out now, and
Yeah.
things are going really smooth. I don't have any, issues. It'll be my first show traveling for, because I'll be
Yeah.
honest, like I think I'm at the point where I've already done enough like local PA
Yeah.
shows. I'm
Yeah.
ready to, travel, because I'm sure,
Yeah.
with you going to Vegas, or even your most
Mhm.
recent show that was in
Mhm.
North Carolina. Where was it?
This one was in Richmond,
Okay. Yeah.
Virginia.
So something that you have to travel a little bit for actually, is something that you learn too, just the way
Yeah.
your body is when you're traveling and trying to
And
keep
it
pressure
is.
on.
Oh my gosh. And it gives you a different perspective for people who travel from overseas. I remember when doing Fitness America,
Mhm.
where, these girls would travel from Russia or Finland or Iceland. And I mean, those are long flight. I don't know about you, but after a long flight, my body is puffy. I don't care how much water you drank on that plane. It is like you have a different body when you step off that plane, where you're like, oh hell no, what just happened? So, you have to almost plan like an extra travel day so your body can acclimate and bring your A game. I mean, those chicks did it. I don't know how, but I mean, they came.
I
They
know. I
look
feel
great.
like I'm like feeling like a bag of potatoes when I get off of a
Oh my
plane.
gosh, me too. Me too. I always do. I always do. I usually, anymore, what has helped me, and I'll tell you, and it's probably not for everybody, but what I did this last prep that really helped me, because I dieted over Thanksgiving, and that
Mhm.
was my first prep over Thanksgiving. Usually I do a show that ends the week before. So I do a lot of well, I shouldn't say I do a lot. I used to do a lot of fasting days, and not to be confused with starvation.
Yeah.
So I would do a fasting day, it's a supported fasting day on my travel days. So, because I knew I wasn't exercising, I would drink a ton of fluids, broth, and I fasted over Thanksgiving. And I have never felt better. Like, I was like the best. I was in the best mood because I didn't feel like crap from eating all that food. So I'm like, I think I'm always going to do a show over Thanksgiving. I felt awesome. So, it's not for everybody, but fasting really has helped me. I do that as well when I am traveling, like if I have to travel on a plane and do a show. So I'll fast that day just because I know my body responds best.
Mhm.
And then when I start, to eat according to plan, the following day, I'm like, feel pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. I've done a little bit of fasting here and there myself, and I know that it does just kind of like almost like a detox. I hate to
Hmm.
call it a full
Yeah.
detox, like, not like a fit tea or something like that, but
Yeah.
just restart your receptors almost,
Yeah.
or get your insulin sensitivity a little better, sharper, for that
Yeah.
when you are eating like those nice simple carbs and stuff, like when you're working out, it just responds so much better.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
since we were talking about just mental focus and everything with food, sometimes you just aren't so like food conscious when you do
Yeah.
fasting things, like, and you're talking about the holidays.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's just just puts you at a better mindset and just be like, look, you're fine, you feel good, and you didn't have to eat, like, you're good.
Yes. Well, and I mean, what I tell people too, I said, think about what happens to the body as soon as you eat. There's a hormonal response, and you secrete a hormone called ghrelin. And I say, think of like a little gremlin. So as soon as I start eating, ghrelin is secreted, and what it does, it wants you to gobble up more.
Mhm.
So it's easier physiologically to not eat
Mhm.
versus to start eating, where the coach that I had, she's like, okay, on Thanksgiving, you could have like a little piece of pie and do this. And I was like, hey, do you mind if I just don't even do that? Because here's Aubrey going to have a little piece of pie. And then suddenly that hormone comes out, and I'm like, I'm deprived when I just don't even go down that road. And
Mhm.
I just made everybody drinks. I cleaned up. I was, I got
Stay
myself
busy.
busy. Yeah.
That's a big
And
thing I've
it's one
noticed.
freaking day. It's one freaking day.
Yep. Yeah, I am.
So,
I was the same way. My coach let me have Thanksgiving, and I'm
mhm.
not gonna lie, I definitely probably overdid it. But I mean, I still lost weight. But because I'm in
Yeah.
a contest prep, she was like, "We can't have that," and I'm like, "You know what? Then I don't want one for Christmas." I like.
Yeah.
I was totally fine with just having my weighed out food, like we talked about. We're so used
Yes.
to. I had everything to the
Yeah.
T in my
Yeah.
Tupperware, put it on a plate, ate it. Nobody cared. And
Yep.
I feel better about it. And then when I did
Yeah.
get a cheat meal, I went to the restaurant, got sushi, felt good. I'm fine. We're good.
Yep. Yeah. And you know what? And it's such an interesting perspective, because it is perspective based. You know, we talked about eating disorders, and where, you know, maybe somebody listening is like, oh, that kind of sounds like an eating disorder, but it's perspective. Where, okay, if I'm feeling deprived, if I feel like I'm starving, then that's disordered eating. Or if it's consciously, I know this is in my best interest. I know what my goals are. I know my body. I'm not trying to be like, oh, woe is me, pity me, I can't eat. It's really about switching the labels and really believing that. And that was a game changer for me, because, you know, like you said, nobody cares. You put your food on your plate, nobody cares. Versus if someone's like, oh, I feel so bad, what do you mean you can't eat? No one at Thanksgiving was sad for me that I fasted. At first they were like, oh, and I was like, believe me, it's going to be so worth it when you see me on that stage. You know what I mean?
Yep. I said that to my brother. I was like, that cookie is not worth second place.
Yeah. I think that's perfect, because, you know, another great tagline that I always love to tell myself is like, to be a champion, you have to train like a champion. I mean, every great champion. So, and that's why, you know, I think with this last show, I asked myself, did I fully train like a champion? I mean, every day, and you get this, every day you train like a champion in somebody's eyes, but did you train to the point where you had that unwavering commitment where you didn't have the cookie, you know, and that sort of thing. So that's where, you know, I think there's always wiggle room. I think I notice a lot of competitors, I don't know if you're like this, I always have one fuck up, like right before a prep, where it's like, what the fuck did you just do? There's one, and then you move on. I feel I hear from a lot of people. It's like being human, and it's not about that. It's a matter of, you know, okay, you know that you have to be true to yourself, you know, and own your shit.
Yes, right. And we talked about coaches. It is definitely great, like we said, to have a great communication with your coach, so that you can talk to them about this thing and just be like, hey, listen, I fucked up and I want to tell you, because, you know, I don't want it to come back later on me, or anything like that. And that is just so important to have that accountability, because like I said, with my coach, when I had too much for Thanksgiving, she let me have it. And I'm like, that's what I pay you for. Like, yell at me, because now I'm not going to do it again.
Yeah. It's hard to and you know what? God bless my coach, because I swear, I think I give her material for her podcast. I'll tune into her podcast and I'm like, God bless America. She is talking about me. That bee is talking about me. And then I'll message her and I'll be like, well, I'm glad that I gave you some material for your podcast, you know? And I think that's another hard thing. I don't know how you feel like when you're in what I call the improvement season, you know? So I'm fortunate enough that, like, I mean, my coach looks at me and she's like, Aubrey, in your improvement season, like, you're not eating enough, or cool it on the wine and the chocolate. And how do you not go back to being human, so human again? That's the thing. And she helps me with that. But I swear to God, it's hard to disappoint your coach, because you want to do good. You don't want to give them the stress that you constantly have the come to Jesus talk.
Yes. And it's sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes it's just embarrassing. It's just like, she gave me a plan. I'm paying for this plan and I didn't follow. Like, that's embarrassing, and I'm getting yelled at. But then I learned.
And you know, I think, you know, with the people that I coach now, there's always a reason when they're like, I don't know why I did it. And no, there's always a reason. And sometimes it's just deeper. And, you know, I have some clients and I'm like, is competing what you really want to do? I know you want the body. We all want the body, but what else is going on under the surface? So I always respect the individual as a whole, instead of being like, oh, well, you're just not disciplined enough. There's always like this excuse. And, you know, and I'm sorry, this is probably a touchy thing, but you can't use, you know, the 2020 experience as an excuse why you fucked up. Because it's not as personal, unless, you know, somebody close to you died or something like that. But when people are like, oh, it's just the stress, then turn off the news. You know what I mean? That's the thing. It's like, okay, we can't be there. It's deeper than that if you keep falling off course with your plan. So.
Right. And obviously gyms are closed and stuff. So like sometimes stuff like that happens and you make do and you adjust. But you know, when it comes to diet, you control what goes in your mouth. So
Yep.
like, that's when
Yep.
you have to just learn to take control and just like, you know, I'm not a mom. I'm sure when you become a mom and you're feeding them different foods, it can be hard because maybe you want to have a nibble and sometimes, I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
like, that's why I'm saying, like, you have control. And I know it might be hard to serve your kid food and you can't have it, but then, you know, just be like, it's just not worth it, or just like, don't like food.
Once you, I don't know how you feel. I always say, you know, what changed me, I delayed. I think that another reason that my show prep wasn't flawless. Okay. And I wasn't meant to get my pro card this time around. I signed up for the show kind of late. So I signed up for it. I probably dieted for, honestly, Paige, 8 weeks when I should have been 12 weeks dieting for sure. So I was shitting around, and as soon as I signed up, guess what happened? Girlfriend was on point. So the sooner you sign up for that show, I know for me, that's when it gets real. That's when it's like, all right, yeah, you can back out, but you know you're not gonna. So I think signing up for it as soon as possible is a really crucial element for most people. Maybe not everybody, but for me, that was a game changer. Me being a mom, I'll say this to any moms out there who want to compete. There's two things. One thing that I don't do is because if I'm not eating something, I'm not a food pusher to my own son. My son eats what I eat. You know, this holiday, he didn't know what Skittles were. I told him it was plastic candy, so he wouldn't eat it. But that's me. I don't deprive him. It's not like doesn't have these things. Anything in our house, he eats. I mean, he eats vegetables and fruits and oatmeal and eggs. And so I'm not really tempted by his food. But as soon as I sign up for that show, if he is having a treat, I mean, 9 times out of 10, I could resist it because you signed up for the show.
Right. And just be like, that's his food. That's kid food. That's not my food.
Right.
It's not adult food. If that's how you have to
Yes.
look at it. And that's where we're talking again, the mindset and the perspective that you put towards whatever your goal is or what the food is.
Yeah.
How does that purpose me? So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you know what? I feel like I could talk to you forever. Maybe in the future we can have you back on and have some more topics, because I know I did promise you about 45 minutes or so. But also I want to ask real quick, I feel like I should know this, but when's your birthday?
Oh, February 18th.
Oh, so are you what?
I'm Aquarius.
Aquarius. That's what
are you Pisces?
No, I'm actually a Gemini.
You're May. That's right. Gemini. That's right. That's right. The ultra ego.
And we're both air signs, so we're very compatible. We're very
floaty. That's right. Awesome.
That's always my theme. I always gotta like ask these, because I feel like
I'm into that, girl.
It's just so interesting, and I feel like there's a little bit of a piece of each of our signs in us. Whether
now, do you know? Oh, totally. Do you know your Chinese zodiac animal?
Monkey.
Shut up. I'm a monkey too. So monkeys love monkeys, and monkeys are so fun.
Exactly. Yes.
my son is a monkey as well.
Dude,
he's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. We're just full of fun, and since we're both air signs, I mean, we're just like these like floaty monkeys.
Absolutely. Well, no, I really appreciate you reaching out to me, because I love what you're doing. I think it's so important to educate people in the sport, and let me know how I can support your podcast, support you, cheer you on. I mean, girl, you're killing it. So
I'm having fun. This is so much fun to me. I love to talk, and with everything going on, like, I love that this is a way to still meet people and talk and, just be active,
Absolutely.
And now, also real quick, everybody can find you on Instagram. It's
Instagram. So it's just my name, Aubrey Worek. And, so here's the deal, Paige. Here's the crazy thing. So I want to keep my Instagram, but Instagram's policies have changed. They can really, invade your privacy, ruin your life. So I'm still on Instagram, and I have lots of great videos and things on there. But some other ways to find me, obviously, is through my website, aubreyworek.com. And if I can give a shameless plug, anyone who is looking for an affordable way to just get motivated, do some home exercise type of stuff, I do these virtual challenges. I had an ab challenge last season. Now I'm doing a leg challenge. So if you go on my website, you'll find some awesome programs that you can take advantage of.
Definitely. Yes. And since, I know deep down or from experience that you are an amazing posing coach, are you doing online posing too for anybody that might want to?
I am. We are starting online posing, and I am partnering up again with Stacy Longo. So I'm starting that. I have a virtual posing session coming up. And like I said, the posing has evolved. The one thing was my feedback that I got in this last show is, we was neck and neck with this other gal, and still best poser, baby. So here we go.
That's what I'm talking about.
So you let me know.
And you are also the OCB Team Award for 2020, right?
Yeah. You're so good at following all of that. Yeah. So we have a good group, and even if you're not with the OCB and you're just looking to connect with somebody, let me know. I really fare best with bikini and figure, or I can show you to Stacy Longo, or I'm sure absolutely your coach. And you're still working with Teresa, right?
No, I'm actually with her name's Cami Leal. She's actually online, but she's in Arizona. But I know Teresa too. Teresa's great.
Yeah.
Actually, that's who Mandy's with. You remember Mandy?
Mandy, yes. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, that's really cool.
But yes, and also actually, since you're talking about posing and everything, if there's anybody that wants to do fitness, do you help with like doing routines and stuff too? I know like you did that with Anna. So like people don't know who to ask for that,
Yeah, fitness routines, because the NPC or IFBB, they still have the fitness, like at the Arnold, they still have, girls rocking their fitness routines, and those girls are meant to throw down. So if there's any gymnasts that follow you, I would say that would be the arena to compete in, because they are big with gymnastics. I love to choreograph routines, and my husband mixes all my music, so we make it magic.
Yes. Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I always wanted to ask you since you have such a good background in dance and everything, that if you would ever help people with figuring that out and working with music and getting them.
Hey, I'd love to.
Awesome.
Yeah, I miss it just because what's going on, but yeah, we'll bring it back.
All righty. Well, thank you so much, Aubrey. This was so much fun, and I'm going to have it uploaded for tomorrow. So
awesome. I will share it, and thank you, Paige. Lots of love to you. Mwah. And have a happy new year.
Yes, happy new year. I'll see you.